gave those windy windbags from Chicago the Fair. And that's how the Windy City stuck. It's got nothing to do with our winds. Nothing. We're not the windiest city in the country. That's Amarillo, Texas.
Yeah.
The Windy City, that's in reference to our politicians. Which on that front, fair. Our last two governors have ended up in prison. A little bit of a track record. Working on it. Now the fair was over at Jackson Park by the Museum of Science and Industry. Ended up half the population of our country would circulate through Chicago over a 6-month period. That is over 28 million Americans. Now, we had to house a lot of them, so we ended up designing nearly 250 buildings out of wood, cast iron, and staff. We painted it white and called it the White City. Any of y'all ever read the book, The Devil in the White City by Eric Carr? Very good book, right, folks? I highly recommend picking this book up if you want to learn more about the fair of 1893. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. So I want to talk about this bad game of Jenga right here. 150 North Riverside. Now, this plot of land here has been vacant for nearly 70 years. We could not design on such a narrow plot because on the west side of the building, rail yards. East side of the building, river. This building had to be designed on a near 40-foot wide concrete reinforced core. Steel trusses that press inward on it. Let me give you a better idea. The base of this building, folks, is about the width of this boat. Now look up. A building that tall? A base this narrow? That's stupid. How do you balance something like that out? To do this, you end up having to use what's called a damper system. Now for this one in particular, because there are different kinds, picture 4 large tanks of water at the top of the building, about 160,000 gallons each. So picture my arms in the building, and my analogy is the damper system. Look at this. The wind pushes the building to one side. The mechanism at the top then shifts. The water up there sloshes toward the opposite end of the building, pulls the top in the opposite direction, and balances the whole building out. It operates as a counterweight system. And most buildings actually do this now. The Type A building you mentioned actually uses a weighted pendulum system in the center of the building to do the exact same thing. Yeah. To your right, 100 North Riverside, by Perkins and Will. Now you have a 32-story structure with a 12-story structure just next door to it, all in the same building. But if you listen, you have trains underneath the building. This whole building is designed on a railroad system, Amtrak and Metro. Now this 12-story section is actually not built on a foundation. This whole section of the building here is actually being suspended over the air rights for the rail yard using a truss system which cantilevers this over. So picture a diving board coming in this. That was a bus. Picture a diving board coming in this direction. That's what's happening back there with the whole building. In fact, look over your right shoulder. Those X-braces at the top there have won numerous awards for their innovation and design. To your right, 2 North Riverside Plaza by Hullabard and Root. Sheathed in limestone. Notice the very strong vertical emphasis here. The windows draw your eye to the top. They make the building feel more grandiose than it actually is. It kind of looks like a giant, right? This is very typical within this style. Look at the entryways here. Very cavernous, right? Now, this was the most popular style of the 20s and 30s for a functional purpose. Because, you have to think, air conditioning hadn't been mass-produced in the 20s and 30s yet. So you had to design a building that could naturally cool itself down. The Art Deco style was a great example of this. It allowed for a way more open floor plan. So what happens is cool air circulates on an exterior setback. When you open up a window, it creates a tunneling effect. Wind rushes across the entire floor, across marble, and cools the building down naturally. To your right, the next 4 buildings on the right side of the boat are all known as the Gateway Center. Cleverly named Gateway 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, do you all remember that giant black box I was just talking about back on the main branch? You'll notice same minimalism for the next 3 buildings. Now, Mies van der Rohe, the German architect I keep mentioning, did not design these buildings, but he did popularize the style back at the Bauhaus School in Germany. And the Bauhaus School was forced to close around World War II because, you know, stuff was happening. Mies van der Rohe picks up, moves to Chicago, starts teaching at the Illinois Institute of Technology, and revolutionizes the way we see the form. Bringing Chicago up to creating a culture in Chicago at the intersection of good city planning and experimental architecture. People from all over the world come to study Chicago amateur architecture because of the influences of the Bauhaus School and these philosophies, inspiring architects and engineers from all over the world, including Bangladesh architect, engineer Dr. Fazlur Rahman Khan, who's engineered most of the major landmarks in our city. A great example of his work is this small black box with X bracings on it. It is very similar to the John Hancock Tower, right? Same engineer. Here, though, he was asked to design 2 trading floors without any pillars inside, so it wouldn't block hand signals of stockbrokers. So he puts X bracings. This post office, Chicagoans know, this building's been a huge problem for us. This whole building has been sitting vacant here for nearly 30 years. It's a landmark post office in the city. Now, they say this building's cursed, but before we get into that, it was designed to be this large to accommodate the 3 major catalog houses in Chicago. You can only name those really quick. Just yell them out at me. Sears and Roebuck, Montgomery Ward's, not Penny's, surprisingly, not Macy's. Ready? Spiegel. Sears, Montgomery Ward's, and Spiegel. Now, a string of bad luck started to occur back in the 60s. Millions of pieces of mail are getting jammed in the laundromat in there. Internal fires are breaking out throughout the building. We all woke up one day and realized asbestos was bad. They decommissioned the whole building. It's sitting vacant since then. The early 2000s rolled by, a British developer bought it. This guy's name was Bill Davies. He bought it for almost $20 million. The problem is, he didn't realize he was buying a landmark. And if you know anything about landmark status, it means it's wildly expensive to renovate, and you have to maintain the original intention of the building you bought. So you bought a post office, it's got to stay a post office. So this guy buys a building that he can't afford, and it just sits there for like 15 years. It's kind of funny. About 10 years after we decommissioned this former post office, we built a whole other post office across the street. Now, it just sits vacant, and then 2016 rolls by, and a New York developer buys it. 601W bought it for nearly $125 million. Now, Bill Davies signed over the rights to that building